Oberstdorf in Germany hosting the first leg of the Tour de Ski for 2015. The prologue, of course, is the first event, and the women went off earlier this morning. And remember, the best go last. So Marit Bjørgen, as the World Cup leader, was the last to start. And what a spectacular race it was. The men go over a slightly longer course in a few minutes' time. Let's have a quick look and see how Marit Bjørgen did and how much she dominated. Well, always favourite to finish in the top three, but Marit Bjørgen, I think, astonished even her biggest fans with a massive margin, Mike. It's only a 3-kilometre race, and she put 10 seconds on everyone.
And when you look, Patrick, it was a further 10 seconds down to 14th place. It's a phenomenal lead she has at the start of a very short race, only under 8 minutes of racing.
All right, Marit Bjørgen, Norway, big-time winner in the prologue, over 10 seconds to second place. It's a long tour, but it must still be nice to start with a win.
Of course, it's a good beginning, and you know that the shape is very good, and yeah, but tomorrow is the 10K again, and they are coming very hard behind me, so we see. But it's a good start, and I know that the shape is very good. So.
And on TV, it makes the course look much flatter than it is. It's quite difficult, long climbs.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, it's 2 laps, and it's very hard uphill. So if you're too fast in the beginning, you maybe can get it hard in the last lap. But I did very good 2 laps, so I'm very happy.
Well, congratulations on a great start.
Oh, thank you.
If you're too fast in the beginning, you're going to suffer. Now, she could have given that advice to Johaug at the start. She could have said it to Justina Kowalczyk, who was very quick over the opening stages. But Marit Bjørgen, having said that, had the fastest split all the way round. It's just that she could ski that fast and cope with it and keep the pace all the way through to the finishing line. So a brilliant start for her. And if you're wondering just how old she is 34, born on the 21st of March, 1980, and still going great guns. Well, what little snow there is melting rapidly with the air temperature at 3.8 degrees. We could really do with some good sub-zero temperatures. Had a chat with Therese Johaug before the start of the women's. She was saying it was minus 25 at home over Christmas up in Norway, and they could do with a few days of that just to solidify all the snow that's fallen in the last week or so, and there's precious little of it. The profile here, Mike, very different from the Oberhof course last year, but that big climb is significant, and that, I think, is where 1 or 2 of the big names got the pacing wrong in the women's race.
I think it is, and we heard Marit Bjørgen say it as well. It's so clear. You hit the first lap. It's 2 rotations here of 2.2 kilometres, and I think the wise athletes will just hold back a little first time round.
Well, of course, the favourite is last year's champion, Martin Jonsrud Sundby of Norway. And I'm glad to say that he is back to defend his title this year.
We spoke with Teresa just a few minutes ago and asked her if she had a nice Christmas period, and we ask you the same question. A nice Christmas break, but ready to start competing again?
Yeah, for sure. It's been a beautiful Christmas. I've stayed at this place upside Lillehammer in Sjusjøen, trained very well, but also filled up my motivation with some family time, and had a beautiful Christmas.
And a big sort of aggressive course here in Oberstdorf with the prologue and then the classic race. A nice way to get started?
Yeah, I love this place. Compared to last year's starting destination, this is just beautiful. A bit weather for sure this weekend, but it only makes it more interesting. I think I'm really ready to begin this show now, and hopefully the next 10 days will be exciting. I think it will be perhaps the most exciting men's Tour de Ski ever.
Yeah, I think many would agree with that. Well, good luck tomorrow and in the coming days.
Thank you, man.
Well, that was nice to hear. I'm not sure he will have pleased too many who live in Oberhof, but you can see what he means, Mike. I think partly he's referring to the snow conditions, which were atrocious this time last year, and hence the programme was slightly changed. But also here we're pretty much in the mountains. There's Andrew Musgrave of Great Britain. Oberhof is in the forests of former Eastern Europe.
It's a great place, is Oberhof, but it can also often be misty and grey, and it feels so good here, especially when they arrived 4 days ago. Half a metre of snow fell.
Yeah, Musgrave warming up, hoping to better last year's result. So, everyone deep in thought, and as Martin Jonsrud Sundby was saying, he thinks this could be the most exciting tour ever. I think the reason for that is that he's obviously well known, Mike, but how many contenders have we got for the title? Northug obviously back trying again. We've got Sundby, so the Norwegians expected to dominate. Can anyone touch them?
They certainly have a very strong team. I think we've got Daniel Rickardsson, of course, from Sweden. We've got Kalle Halvarsson. He can sprint. He's very good in the classic. He's good in the freestyle, maybe a little better in the classic style. I think he's a real contender this year. Skor Rota, we saw him, his improvements in the classic. He's always been a good freestyle. I think we have about 8-10 athletes who could take the title. And
no mention of Dario Colonia so far.
I shouldn't really leave him out, but his sprinting isn't so good. Since his ankle injury, he hasn't quite shown his sprinting strength. I think you need that more in the men's field.
But we only have one sprint, so he's not going to lose too much time. 60 seconds at the most.
He can stand to lose. If he doesn't make that top 30, he'll lose a minute to the best.
Anyway, we're underway, and in 7-8 days' time we will know the result of those questions, the answers to those questions. Will it be Sundby? Will it be Northug for the first time? It's not going to be Emmanuel Arrojo of Spain, who's underway, comes from Tolosan. And I think his fight really is to stay on the tour. He's got to stay within 25% of the leaders, and I think that's going to be quite a tough job. Uli Schneider is next for Switzerland, a 24-year-old. Colonia going off late on, as you would expect, one of the best in the field at number 85. So that's the man that the Swiss will be watching. Schneider, once again, trying to stay within 25% of the best.
Schneider, he's a very good, classic sprinter. We saw that up in the tour, the 3-day tour. Up in Ruka, come 24th in fact in the first sprint competition.
4.42 kilometres the distance for the race this year. Last year they did 4.5, and this year 170 metres of height gain, so it's pretty tough. Not the hardest prologue course we've ever seen, and the fact that they're doing 2 loops, Mike, just makes the first split slightly less important.
I think it does. We will see some, I think, of the early starters really attacking the excitement of getting out on this course and setting early good times, and I think we'll see hopefully Andrew Musgrave setting the early time for a long time, and maybe even he's had the 17th position, I know, in the past in the prologue. I think he's got the potential to better that this year, so a very early starter. Hopefully he'll set the standard.
He goes off number 14, incidentally, Andrew Musgrave, and be interesting to see Roy Young, his coach, saying that they're trying to control the red mist, which is the sort of fury that Andrew Musgrave puts into the first K and a half of every race. You've got to be careful. I guess in the prologue last year he set that pace and he held it. With 2 laps this time round, he's got to be just that little bit careful.
You have to be, and I think that given that it's a 4.4 kilometre, I think you can get away a little more with an aggressive start and survive over the distance of 4.4, over say 10 or 15, and then it really does hit you in the final third of the race.
Well, Schneider's skis seem to be gliding very nicely indeed, and don't underestimate how important the technicians are in today's conditions. Fresh snow, it's 3.8 degrees above zero, so there's a lot of moisture in the snow. They've got to be careful that they've got the right base preparation.
very much. And the water runoff, the humidity here, it's high. Of course, the snow is very wet. You need to, as quickly as possible, get any friction from the water off the base of the ski.
Well, it's nice to see Schneider, but I have to say it would have been nice to see Erik Bjornsson to see whether the American men are on the same sort of form that we saw from the American women. Sadie Bjornsson, his sister, having a really good run this morning, finishing in 7th place. He started 30 seconds behind Schneider, and he's what, some 200 metres, 250 metres behind Schneider at the moment. Going along the tracks, but we've seen nothing of him.
It's good to see, though, I suppose we're looking at the course. There's Bjornsson as you speak. Good to see this extra bit that the men are doing. It's mainly flat, though, isn't it? It's just a little flat extra before the biggest of the climbs, which they go up twice.
Yeah, a few little rises. The skate 2, the skate 3 technique's so important to stay efficient, to stay fluent, but generate that speed. Maybe as we watch Schneider doing well, he switched from skate 2 into skate 1, but the skate 2 on the flat, gradual uphills, Mike, what is the technique? What's the secret to developing real speed?
I think that we saw a good image there. It's a cycle of energy, so making sure that the tempo, you're getting energy return from both legs, and of course bringing the arms into play hugely, trying to get as much energy from the upper body also.
And getting the timing with the application of power through the arm, the same as the application of power through the legs, just so you generate that extra little bit of speed. That was David Hoffer, incidentally, starting for Italy. As we go back to Schneider, director obviously expecting Schneider to set the fastest time at the 1.8 kilometre stage. Be a little bit embarrassing if he doesn't match it, but he looks as though he's a couple of seconds up on the Spaniard Rojo.
He is, and Rojo has set some good results in the under-23 categories. Rojo was 31st in the skiathlon at the under-23 World Championships.
Andy Kuhn just getting underway in the stadium for Germany, and he'll be followed by his teammate Jonas Dobler. Here is Dobler from Traunstein. And Germany, I guess, would have been reasonably satisfied with the way things went this morning in the women's event. Obviously, I think Neustadt was just a bit below par, Mike, some way off the pace.
Yeah, I think she was, what, 27 seconds off the pace, although when Bjørgen takes a full, 10 seconds out of second place, it's a destruction of the field.
But Nicole Fessel, the best of the Germans and the best of the rest, essentially, with Norway finishing positions 1, 2, 3 and 4.
A strong field. I think the Norwegian names in the women's field are, of course, the Norwegian men are strong in this field today, but they're not going to have it as much all their own way as in the women's field. Dobler, what was he? Lillehammer, he had a good freestyle 10 kilometre, 27th. That's his best result this season.
Well, here's the steepest section of the course.
Would you want to ski through that mud? I think I would want to try and cut it a little finer, because that does slow the skis down. It reduces the glide factor marginally.
Here's a contender for the fanciest suit with the Bulgarians, and a good start indeed from them. We're back with the early starters. Jonas Bouwman out on the trucks. Andrew Musgrave has started for Great Britain. If you're trying to follow him through, we'll try and give you a split as he goes through. We're expecting him certainly to get into the top 3 on the first split, and perhaps set the pace when he comes into finish in a few minutes' time. 4.2 kilometres, remember the distance here, or 4.42, I should say, as we watch David Hoffer, member of the Carabinieri, the mountain police force in Italy, and they've produced a whole host of world-class skiers over the years. 13.7 outside, and I guess the Italians will be delighted that Giorgio De Centa is back for another tour. He'll become one of only 2 men at the end of this to have, well, if he finishes this year, he'll become one of only 2 men to have done that, because I'm assuming that Petter Northug is going to finish as well. Of course, those are the only 2 men left who've done that. I think we've got 7 or 8 who've started every tour, but as we say, just a couple who have so far finished every tour.
It's a great achievement, and I think Giorgio De Centa, what, he's 42-year-old now, I think over his history of all the completions that he's had, he's always performed really well. He's never been a sprinter, so he loses out a lot of potential 15-second bonuses or sprint bonuses, but he always performs well here, and I hope we see him lifting his form for it again this time.
5.8 outside for Jonas Dobler as we switch to Thomas Bing, another of the Germans, just leaving the stadium for the first time, so a long way to go for him. Number 12 is Dietmar Nuckler of Italy, who started just a minute ahead of Andrew Musgrave from Huntly Nordic Ski Club up in east of Scotland, not far outside Aberdeen. What a sensation he's been over the last couple of years. But again, Mike, he's got so much talent, Andrew Musgrave, but we're seeing, what, 1 or 2 or 3 flashes of brilliance in a season. How do we develop that so he's competitive in every race?
It's a tough one to do, isn't it? When he never has a backup team. He's got a very good backup team, but not as the depth that you have in the Norwegian system. And sometimes the conditions can work against Andrew, who's just coming up the hill, bottom left of our screen, or middle left of our screen. Yeah,
staying to the right of the track, Musgrave, because he's obviously on his first lap, and the two men we're watching, Rojo and Schneider, on their second lap, coming up towards 4 kilometres. Now, this really is a very significant split, and Schneider sets the mark there, 14.2 minutes at the moment as Musgrave comes up 3:57. He's going to be close to that leading time. Good high tempo, Mike. What do you think about the start?
I love it. I absolutely love it because it's controlled. He can go up that hill much faster. We'll see that the next time, I hope, but very much controlled. Absolutely love what I see there.
Yeah, and I thought a telling factor was when he got to the top of the climb, a couple of dynamic paces just to build the speed onto the flat. Really good discipline, and an indication that he's feeling pretty good.
Yeah, Roy did say, Roy Young down there with Andrew as well as Alex Standen down there and helping in the backup, 2 Waxmen, Norwegians. So it's a good backup team, and Roy was saying that Muzzy was feeling good, very relaxed. He was home in Huntly for Christmas and then back over to Lillehammer prior to here.
Not a lot of snow in Huntly over Christmas, but a cold period. They've had a cold snap up there, as you well know, coming from Aviemore, and the snow coming and going.
It was certainly cold enough, -8, -9 up there at Christmas time, but sadly some of the snow was washed away earlier.
Lucas Bergel for Germany, just starting his second steep section, and then once at the top of that climb he can have a pretty easy run in towards the finish. The French, well, it's been a couple of years since we've seen the best from the French. What was it, 7-8 years ago, where they were winning relays. It's been a bit of a downward slide since then, but just watching Bergel go through 5.3 inside. Early days, though, and we would expect to see the lead changing on frequent occasions. Tim Schanker, familiar style of the Germans. They tend to have their hands a little bit closer together than many at the start. Do you think that all started with a former winner of the Tour, Toby Angerer, man who won the first Tour?
Well, as Bergel went over the top of this hill, I thought it was Toby Angerer, because he's from Traunstein, so is Angerer. And yes, you often shade the athlete who is your hero, and the hands are quite close in front of him.
And some of that comes from hunching the shoulders as opposed to having the shoulders back. And I think in a way, it gives you a stronger platform for build on for the double pole, but it just doesn't look quite as good.
And I think when you hunch the back, you're then restricting the lungs. The lungs are your engine feeder, aren't they? You're sucking in 240 litres of oxygen a minute, so you need to fill up those lungs as best you can.
Yeah, to steal a phrase, good point. Now, let's see what Bauman's done in 10:12.6, the leading time. He's well inside that. And so Switzerland with the early lead at the moment. 10:12, I think we're going to see sub 10 minutes, almost certainly going to see sub 10 minutes. And when you think that the margin between first and second in the women's race over a shorter distance was 10 seconds, maybe we could see sub 9:50.
I think we have a real chance of seeing sub 9:50. We're never, I don't think, in the men's field going to see a 10-second break from first place to second place. I'm not sure that's possible.
Even Babikov racing for Canada, of course, as he has done for a long time, and he's certainly a trendsetter in Canada. He showed them how hard you have to train over the years, and I think Alex Harvey, for one, will have benefited from his presence in the team.
Devin Kershaw as well. They used to train hard, but they were fascinated at how much Babikov, how many hours he could physically push a day and still going strong.
Thomas Wick just finishing, but behind him is David Hoffer of Italy into third place, 10:05.8. So the time coming down all the time. Eldar Roning for Norway. Great skier, very good classic skier as well.
I think he's one of the rare skiers nowadays who is much stronger classic than skating. I know he's worked endlessly this summer to improve his skating, and that actually looks good. 5 seconds off the pace at 1.8.
He always reminds me a little bit of Thomas Olsgaard, who was the great classic skier for Norway as well. But the Norwegians have caught up in the freestyle over the last 5 years or so, having been left behind. Larkov, well, that's impressive, and maybe an indication of what the Russians are going to do today. Top seed in the Russian team, I guess, is Yevgeny Belov, number 31. Big name, big skier, Markus Hellner. What can he do? He's Olympic gold medalist, of course. He's Petter Northug's former nemesis, really, out on the tour.
Well, that was great, wasn't it, when the world champs went to Norway, to the home of cross-country skiing, the Holmenkollen, and for Hellner to beat Northug.
Here comes Giorgio De Centa, 42 years of age, still going, and maybe that's the first indication that age is catching up with him. 15.9 outside at the very first split. There's something not quite right with the attack with Giorgio.
Well, he's never been a sprinter, and he's never going to attack that first 1.8. I think he might, like that big ocean liner, might pick his pace up a little in the second rotation, but he's never going to be less than 20 seconds off the best time today.
But Mike, who would agree with you that 4.4 kilometers is a sprint?
Well, it is for when there's a 35 kilometre in this Tour de Ski. It's a kind of a sprint. It is an endurance man's win today. It's not an out-and-out sprinter.
Yeah, isn't that the fascination of this prologue?
But when you're 42-year-old, I think that's what I'm going for. When you're that age, it's not. You need to open up a bit further.
Okay, he'll be looking forward to the 35k race.
Yeah.
Toblak suffering from lack of snow, so I think we're heading for a few course changes, which is a shame because that classic ski up the valley, absolutely sensational. Now, here comes Andrew Musgrave. Oh, well, that's a big surprise to see him well outside the best time, and I wouldn't be surprised to hear if he's taken a fall, because that margin is huge compared to Baumann, who he was right on his tail at 1.2. He ends up 15.9 behind. Maybe just a different approach to the Tour. We will find out later on, but certainly I was expecting to see Andrew Musgrave in the top 20 at the end of today. That's now not going to happen.
It's certainly not going to happen. I think Andrew will be disappointed with that. There's a lot of big names still to come in this race. Early stages at the moment.
Curtin Pearl outside as well. Maybe Baumann's time is something special. Jonas Baumann started number 7 and still leads with 10:05. Well, the winner of the prologue, incidentally, has only once won the overall Tour, and that was Lukas Bauer back in 2008 when he was on extraordinary form. Now Larkov leading at 3:52. Volsentsev, his teammate, can't match it.
It's an incredible early time Larkov has set. Is it a little too fast too soon? We'll have to wait and see at the intermediate time on at 4 kilometres.
Larkov number 23, so we're expecting him in 3 minutes time, if not a little bit quicker than that. Roland Clara a full 10 seconds outside the best time so far, and we would have expected to see him challenge Jonas Baumann. This is Hannes Dotzler.
I'm just wondering, Patrick, at 3.8, the temperature gauge seems to be going up all the time. It certainly is becoming much more broken up and softer conditions. Baumann and Larkov maybe will be big surprises here today.
Well, we were expecting to see a similar situation in the women's, but the top seeds produce the goods in the end and cope with the slightly softer conditions. Maybe the changes in the men's are more dramatic. Marcus Hellner, 4.2 outside. Welcome back to Oberstdorf. Larkov, the man in your picture at the moment, has just gone through the 4-kilometre stage with a slim lead. He had a good lead over Baumann, but that has been cut in half, and he now just has 2.9 seconds to play with over the Swiss skier, who leads in the finish area at the moment, having started number 7. This is Eldar Roning coming in. Remember, much better classic skier, so we could see him moving up through the order. Not a bad run indeed. 6.2 outside. Could end up 10 seconds behind, but he's very capable of making up that sort of margin on a 15-kilometre classic, which is what is on the card for tomorrow here in Oberstdorf. Maurice Magnificat, who's been very strong, the best of the French over the last couple of years, would you say?
I would say he has been. He has some bad days, but often a very good day. Larkov managed to survive. He was in agony going over the top of the big climb second time, but held on to his lead.
Yeah, in the last 400 metres, losing just 0.3 of a second, so doing well in the closing stages. Started perhaps just a fraction too fast. Larkov 4.2 seconds ahead at the first split. Marcus Hellner is now in second position at the second split, 4.5 off the pace held by Larkov, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hellner's used his experience well and will accelerate on that second lap, so he could certainly take the lead when he comes in at the end of his run.
And Larkov and a lot of the Russian team, 24th, 25th, 27th, 28th of December, they had the Eastern European Cup and big races, sprints, classic and freestyle, and the distance races as well, so he's in good form.
Len Valius, 37, going through the split time, 10.8 behind. I'm not sure Justin Wadsworth, his coach, will be too happy with that start. Comes from Toronto. Now, I'm not sure about Toronto, but I did speak to someone from Breckenridge yesterday who said they've spent more time shoveling snow this winter than they have done sleeping. So they've obviously got plenty.
They had that early snow over in New York State as well, didn't they? When was that? End of November. Tons of snow, more than they'd seen for many years. So 2 Canadians, but one is one lap further behind.
So Len Valius really pushing the pace at the start of his second lap, as we watch Devon Kershaw coming in to finish, and he's a long way behind, and still 10.03 from Larkov, the fastest time. That's a big margin, 24 seconds. I wonder whether the Canadians have got a problem with the wax.
Well, it's not impossible. And Kershaw, season 2012, 4th overall in the Tour de Ski.
Sveen of Norway trying to topple Eldar Roning, but he's not quite going to manage that. 10.9 outside. And so everyone coming in between 10.05, 10.15, but still I think I'll keep my cards on the table and say that 10 minutes will go come the end of this race. And that's despite the fact that the conditions do look to be getting a little bit slower.
They certainly do appear that way, and it's big traffic. 98 athletes effectively twice around this. It's a lot of skiers, well, just under 200 effectively having skied on this little bit of snow.
This is Starega for Poland. Obviously, Kowalczyk is the best female cross-country skier they've ever had. In men's terms, well, Thomas Sikora has been their big star in biathlon, but what have they got to boast about in the men's cross-country?
We have to go a long way back to the 70s before, when there was a big name, and name escapes me, but pushing the top of cross-country skiing.
I was just about to be hugely impressed with your New Year's knowledge. We'll work on that. We'll have the answer for you tomorrow. Maybe some of you know. But in the women's field, Kowalczyk, she's bringing her teammate Jaśkowiec quite a long way. Jaśkowiec 24th today. I think that's a very good position. Incidentally, if you do want to get in touch, send us any comments, any questions about the Tour de Ski, use our biathlon email address, biathlon.eurosport@yahoo.com. or yahoo.com, I think seems to work as well.
Hey, I think Hellner is closing the gap. He was 4.5 seconds off. He's got it down to 0.9. Surely he can take this lead at the moment ahead of Larkov.
3, 2, 1. It's going to be desperately close, and he gets inside. The green light is on, and Marcus Hellner of Sweden goes into top spot, but still that 10-minute marker stands. 10:03.2, currently the leading time, and Larkov pushed down into second place. Good finish by Hellner, and he paced that one just about right. Second all the way round until the last of the timing ones, which of course is the finish. Robin Duvillard from Villard de la, 4.6 outside, respectable. Schöner's off, trying to wind it up as he comes into the finish now for Russia, and the Russians certainly producing some very good results. He's going to be close. Hellner's lead could be short-lived. It is 1.2 inside for Schönersov. The Russians, well, still riding that Olympic wave where they had some extraordinary results, namely the 50 kilometre. I still can't quite believe what I saw there, but the Russians expected, if they're like most nations that host the Olympics, expected to reap the benefits in terms of results for what, a couple, 2-3 years after that?
I think so, but then you look at Ledkov. He hasn't performed well at all this season. In fact, not even here today. But Chernusov, he was one of those men on that 50-kilometre day. He took the bronze medal, and this is the best we've seen of Chernusov this season so far. He's really hurting at the finish line.
Marcus Tricher. Obviously, the less said about Dua, the better. Who was third initially. And Tricher going through 9 seconds off the pace. 35 finishing is Magnificar, and he's close enough to be dangerous. That's not a bad run. Schönersov now on 10:01.2, so we are getting closer and closer to that 10-minute mark. Hamilton of USA at 1.8. He's still got a way to go, and he's going to be at least 5 seconds outside the leading time.
And he's making it look very, very easy, but this is going to be, what, 10 seconds off the pace?
Fair to say that the American women have stolen a march on their on the American men?
As a team, maybe, but remember Simeon last year, Simeon Hamilton taking that win, I think I'm right in saying that, in Val Muster. His victory there was sweet, but certainly the women's team as a team are stronger on paper than the men.
Emil Jonsson. Now here is an out-and-out sprinter, and what a fantastic racer. I still remember the first day we watched him up in the north of Finland, Mike, up that climb in Kusamo. Astonishing power that he demonstrated. I think he's a better distance racer than he was then, but he's also a much wiser sprinter, so I'd be interested to see how Jonsson goes today.
He's going to be, you would expect, competitive, and with the World Championships, what, 14th, 15th of February back home in Sweden, the Swedish team, I'm expecting their form to be on the rise, on the up and up. And in fact, could we have a Swedish win in the overall Tour de Ski? Certainly not impossible with Hellner, and further back or further up in the rankings, Halvorsen, Rickardson. There's some great names in Swedish cross-country.
Yaks for the Czech Republic. Lukáš Bauer, the most impressive Czech on the Tour de Ski history list, with 2 victories in 08 and 10. Tryshev can't match his teammate Chernusov, and he'll be a little bit disappointed with that. Now, if we just scroll down, Mike, the result sheet, 10:01.2, the leading time. Andrew Musgrave was some way off the pace when he came in, and he's still surviving in the top 20.
He is. He's 17th position at the moment, and we've had, it's a good position, you know. We've had 39 finishers so far, so I think it's going to be Yeah, at the end of the day, it could even be a top 30 for Muzzy.
Well, the top 30 would be relevant in that it would give World Cup points, but only 50 points going to the winner. But Musgrave with only 2 World Cup point winning runs so far this season.
Interestingly, with Larkov's time here at 1.8, Chernusov was nearly 10 seconds off his pace at this point, and doesn't it show what pacing does? So Chernusov took this first part pedestrian and then opened up on the second rotation.
And do you think the fact that they race this sort of distance so seldom means that they struggle with the pacing? The 1.5 kilometre sprint distance, they know what they've got to do. They've got to start hard, they've got to finish hard, and the middle's got to be pretty damn fast as well. But this 4 kilometre distance, they race it once a year, and people just haven't got the hang of what the optimum initial speed is.
I think you're right in a sense. Of course, they're used to doing intervals over 5 minutes, say 6, 7, maybe even up into 8 minutes. It's a 10-minute race, this, so it's like a terrain that they don't normally cope with at such a push.
Well, this is why I enjoy it so much, and I'd like to see more races of this distance. A mass start wouldn't work because it would become tactical. This time trial event, it is just you against the clock. The only thing that changes, I guess, is the conditions of the snow. But later on in the season, when we get some nice stable conditions, that wouldn't be the case. Strong finish coming in from Tony Livers of Switzerland, but he's 15 seconds outside, left that charge a little bit too late. And what about Dario Colonia? Up to 1.8. Anything within 5 seconds of the leaders is fine, but as we know, the finish from Chernusov, the early pace from Chernusov was slow, and Colonia is inside that.
He is inside that, and I said earlier, I don't think he's as good as he has been in his sprinting, but it's a good start for him.
Emil Jonsson, he looks to have thinned down a little. Those thighs used to be at least another 10 centimetre girth.
So the winter festival hasn't gone round his waist, that's for sure.
Powerful man.
His technique seems a little different. This hill is so deceptive. It must be, what, 25% gradient. And his technique looks a little different there, Jonsson.
With Colonia and Jonsson off the pace, Mike, I'm just wondering how much the condition change is starting to affect them. How that softer snow may not look much on your screens, but there's that little bit more give when you place the foot down, which absorbs your power, and then the ski doesn't glide quite as quick. It may only be 1.5%, but come the end of 4 kilometres, that adds up.
It absolutely adds up, and I think, Patrick, as they get to this top of this rise, and then we see the S-bends, it's deeper and deeper, so you're fighting just a little more for your balance, you're digging your skis further in, therefore absorbing a tiny little bit more energy each time down this descent.
Well, now we come to some of the really big names. Jean-Marc Gaillard of France. What sort of pace is he going to set early on? At 93 starters in all, so he's still got some way to go through, and that means that the course is going to be even more chopped up. We're just watching number 57, that's Emil Jonsson going through for the start of his second lap, and losing some 10-15 metres to Gaillard as he exits the stadium. Tritscher of Austria outside Andrew Musgrave's time, so Andy Musgrave's time looking better and better as this race goes on. Tritscher in 20th place, 25 seconds behind. He's spent.
And Tritscher, he used to share a room with Johannes Dürr, who was banned after his Olympics, and he did get an apology. His friend, doing what he did, it's given a very bad name to Austrian cross-country skiing.
Hamilton of USA, that's good position for him, well in that top 20 as we watch Alexei Polteranin, 7 World Cup wins as you can see, and Polteranin, when he's on form, is almost unbeatable, but we've seen that, 6 or 7 times so far in his career.
We have, and I think it's pleasing. He was really one of these, like Runing, much better in classic than freestyle, but Polterainen has worked very, very hard on his freestyle, and I think it is much better this season with his 17th position. We
haven't seen a win from Polterainen for a couple of seasons. The last, I think, was in, was it La Clusaz back in 2013. Vincent Jay just going through for France, number 62. Or Renaud Jay, I should say, not Vincent. Vincent different discipline, different
have his
sport.
rifle,
And
I
he
was
was quite good.
wondering.
He was quite good with a rifle as well.
He certainly was.
Olympic gold medalist from back in Vancouver.
Levo Niskanen, is he pacing it well? Is he struggling? He's certainly within striking distance. If it's less than 10 seconds, it is.
Have we got any update on Dario Cologna, Mike, just to see whether his start was dangerously slow? He was in 9th position, Dario Cologna, when he went through the first checkpoint. I was sort of expecting to see him close on the leaders by the time he goes through the second one.
Just he's still to come through. Just as he's had a drastic drop in form.
Well, he must have gone through the second split. There he is. He's down in 18th position, so losing time. 8 seconds behind at the first split, and then a minute and a half later, he's some 16 seconds behind. So perhaps another man who's had a few issues on the downhill section. Simon Håkan Ostensen.
Well, could this be a day, Patrick, where it's not an advantage to be starting at the back of the race? I think there is a factoring in there, where the track was pressed down, had been machined before the race started. But still so many big names with 98 in the field, still all the big names still out there, really, or to start.
Eisenlauer getting a lot of support here in Oberstdorf. He comes from Sonthofen, which is an area that all British Forces skiers will know very well indeed. Now, what's the time? He's a long way outside, going through 1.8, and that margin, I think, is too big to make up. 14.6 seconds. He's saving something, but perhaps saving a bit too much.
I was expecting something special of Jean-Marc Gaillard, but, well, he's going to be, within 9 seconds.
Moving right over to that right-hand side. He's looking for some fresh snow. There's none left, and he certainly doesn't want to go on the left where you can see the dirty snow, because that will reduce the speed of the glide on all the flat and downhill sections.
30th position through that checkpoint.
Well, just to update you, Larkov leading at the first split point. At the second split point, the fastest time at the moment is 4:48.1. That again is Larkov. Chernesov took the lead by the time he went through the third checkpoint, and Chernesov with the fastest time of 10:01. Nusiainen of Finland is miles outside, 31.1 behind, and give the extra 15-second bonus to the winner. He's going to be at least 45 seconds, probably closer to 50 seconds behind the starter tomorrow, because tomorrow's 15K Classic is in the pursuit format. So you start the margin behind that you finish today.
Nusiainen, he's very good in the classic style, but as you said, it will be about 45 seconds. He's got an awful lot of work to do, but he is good at chasing. He is good at pulling time back in the classic races.
Here comes the man from Mora, Emil Jonsson of Sweden, and he chooses a very wet patch to ski through before he comes into the finish. Jonsson 17, 18, 19 seconds outside, and just scrapes in a fraction of a second inside the time set by Andrew Musgrave of Great Britain. So Musgrave in good company.
Musgrave still 21st, and that's with 57 starters having finished.
What do you think Jonsson will do at the World Championships? Will he focus entirely on that the sprint?
I think he definitely will, and I think the course there suits him. It's new courses they've set, but certainly looking at the profiles, I think he stands a very, very good chance. I think Hellner stands a good chance as well in the sprints.
Vilikjanin for Russia, and he's outside, and I think the more people that go through and unable to match Larkov's time, the more we can come to the conclusion that the conditions are getting slower and slower as the race goes on. Now, normally we see this happen in a classic race where someone gets much better conditions at the start, but in freestyle as well, we've seen a few surprise world champions because the conditions have changed so much. Lars Berger for one.
Yeah, that was amazing in Japan, 2009? I think it was.
I'll go for that.
2007. Sapporo World Champs, and yeah, this massive amount of snow fell at about 1/3 of his race, but then it stopped, so it anchored, and then it came on again, so he'd finished his race by the time the second snowstorm came. But hey, you've got to run with your luck, and although it's certainly a factor, but it's small margins. But in a 10-minute race, it's very small margins that matter.
Evgeny Belov on the right of your screen. Renauget of France climbing just on the second lap. He's just gone through. There he is. And we go back to the start. 81, Alex Harvey, who has won the prologue before, and in fact it was exactly 12 months ago. He didn't finish the Tour last year. We were disappointed with that. We thought maybe he could do something really special, but he started off and that looks like a purposeful run. But what would concern me, Mike, is that all the other Canadians have had a disaster so far. You saw that dirty patch of snow that Harvey's already had to ski through, and I think that may be one of the factors affecting the intermediate timings.
It's very wet down there. It's almost like skiing through water. That Frank Ulrich, we saw him there, the German coach.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure a few biathlon fans picked up on Frank Ulrich, who's switched codes.
Well, the best German at the moment is still at the finish. It's still Bogle.
Chris-Andre Jespersen.
Belov we saw go through here, Patrick, in third position, so some of the big names. And Belov, I don't think we've ever seen in the senior category his full potential yet. Maybe it's today. He's third at this checkpoint.
I guess one of the dangers is that the men starting last, who are expected to win, work just too hard early on when they hear they're 4 or 5 seconds off the pace. Maybe they have to accept that the conditions aren't as good and save some of their energy for tomorrow. If they can keep the margin to less than 20 seconds, they can certainly use the groups to draw them back up towards the leaders in tomorrow's pursuit race.
Niskanen, where he saw the big shake of his head as he crossed the line.
Is this why? Are we about to see a fall? No, safely round.
Just disappointed with that time.
Big moment for all Swiss ski fans. Three-time Olympic champion Dario Cologna, who was on sensational form in Sochi last year. But this is where he really made his name. Three-time winner of the Tour de Ski. He won in 11 and he won in 12, but he won prior to that back in 2009, so it's been a long history. But for 2 seasons, Dario Cologna has not been on the top of the step, and the reason is injury rather than anything else.
Well, that was a terrible injury last October, the Olympic season, but amazingly, the rehab was fantastic, and he came back to win the Olympic gold medal in the 15-kilometre.
Yeah, it was amazing form he showed out in Sochi. Some very, very clever training, I think, to get himself prepared for that. He didn't do too much racing beforehand, wasn't tempted into that, nursed that injury well, but somehow got himself used to the conditions. And I think actually the fact that he lives at altitude made a big difference, because everyone struggled with the altitude in Sochi.
It certainly did, and I think his rehab, once you've got an injury, it was a very bad ligament injury in the ankle, and he was on a training machine straight away in the gym the next day.
79 going through. Danny Ricketson, you can spot him for a mile off because he's about 2.5 meters tall.
You're exaggerating. He is incredibly tall cross-country skier.
Musgrave pushed down yet another place into 22nd position, but a much better run than we previously thought from Musgrave, and even he looked disappointed when he crossed the line. But little was he to know that these conditions were to change so dramatically throughout the race. Alex Harvey, and although he's 10 seconds inside the fastest time, he's still got some 50 meters of pretty severe climbing to go before the clock will stop, and Larkov's 3:52 is certainly going to stand. It's not a bad run from Harvey though. What's this going to be? Some 6-7 seconds outside?
So it's still doable. We saw that with Chernusov, who was 8.7 behind here, so Harvey still has a real chance. What about this man?
Well, here's another man who's never won the Tour. Certainly, he deserves to. He's one of only 2 men, one of only 3 men to have entered and finished every Tour so far. Philbrick of Germany has also done the same, but Philbrick not racing today. Polteran in 12 seconds outside, which is, I think, good for his starting position. That's not too bad. Can we assume that he's on good form?
Oh, definitely. And the improvement in his freestyle. We know he's a great classic skier, Polterainen, and the fact today that he's got himself so far up, surely Polterainen's got to be a huge threat tomorrow in the 15-kilometre classic.
Do you see him as an overall winner?
Not really, not really.
Can he climb the Alpe d'Huez? That's the big question.
Well, his skating has improved. We saw that with his performance there in 9th position at the moment.
And just in case you're new to the Tour de Ski, as we watch Dierhaug come through for Norway, he's 10-11. The final leg of this Tour de Ski, it's a controversial one, but it's one that fascinates the spectators. It is a climb, a 9-kilometre ski, 4.5 kilometres of which are up a downhill ski slope. And I think it's a red run that they ski up. It really is the most staggering achievement to get to the top alone, but let alone win it. And not so many men have managed that.
I think put on top of that as well, Patrick, 7 races, 9 days, this kind of intensity. Today's one of the shorter races, or the second shortest race. So it's an intense week, psychologically, with the travelling in between as well.
But will this race take more out of Cologne than a 15k mass start? I think it probably would.
Well, it's certainly expensive energy.
It's not a bad time from Dario Cologne. Does he come here to finish second? I don't think so. 2.8 outside, and that's a good pace. If he can keep that going, then certainly he could challenge Chernousov for that leading time. Belov gets 1.5. That's a fantastic run from Belov. Well, there goes Martin Jonsrud Sundby. Mike, you said his weakness was skating. 2-3 seasons ago, he looked better than anyone else over those first 100 metres.
And you know, and what a turnaround. He said he was frustrated with the fact that he was a great classic skier, but could never match the field in the freestyle. Worked on it, and as you say, his balance is magnificent.
Is that Northug?
That's second time round.
In fact, that's Dierhaug on his second lap, skiing a little bite like Petter Northug, but perhaps not quite as quick. Northug started number 89, incidentally, and is exactly 2 minutes ahead of Sundby as we speak. Rota.
This should suit Rota with his very light body weight. And look how far to the left of our screen he's going. It's the long way round, but it's slightly harder snow on the edges.
9.9. That's going to be difficult to pull back.
Jespersen again trying to find the faster snow, an indication of that they all know and realise that it's a little slower at the moment than it was earlier on.
Cologne started 85 incidentally, and we're waiting. Cologne's gone through the second split. He's in second place behind Larkov, 2.3. He was 2.8 behind Larkov when we saw him go through that first split. So that's a half-second gain in the period of under a minute. So he's doing pretty well. Here comes Petter Northug. This is quick enough to challenge, but I'm not sure he's quite going to take the lead away. Some 3 or 4 seconds outside the fastest time. Work to do for Petter Northug. 9th position at the moment.
I think it's pretty safe, Patrick. It's the timing. It's at the bottom end of what he would have expected at this point.
Norway's Petter Northug, the bad boy of cross-country skiing, in all sorts of trouble over the summer months, even has a jail sentence pending, but he is still a national hero. He's won this prologue more than anyone else. 3 times he's won, 10, 12, 13, beaten by Alex Harvey last year. But on every time he started the Tour de Ski, he has finished, and he hates that last climb more than anybody else.
He does. It doesn't suit him. He's, what, 84 kilos, and you're climbing 4 kilometres up a red alpine slope, as you mentioned. It doesn't suit him, but he's here every year to try again to take it. And the determination that Northug has this season, he wants it, I think, more than anybody.
Good start from Halvorsen. Northug, I know you don't know the answer to this, but do you think he'd take a 50k gold in the World Championships in Falun, or would he take the Tour de Ski victory?
It's an interesting one.
Has to be Tour de Ski.
I think it has to be Tour de Ski. He's the 400 points that come with it in the World Cup standing. That's a brilliant bonus to your overall season, and he just wants to win it. He's had seconds, he's had thirds, always in the top 10.
Hauk of Austria alongside Danny Rickardson. Rickardson in the Swedish colours is just fractionally ahead, but did start some 30 seconds behind Hauk and gets himself to within 25 seconds of the current leader at the finish, Ilya Chernozov of Russia, who started number 33. And of all the top 10 positions, Mike, the only late starter so far is Yevgeny Belov. Everyone else has come from early on.
They have, but I think it's going to change when we see Cologne at the next split.
Even Martin Sundby can't match the best time. In fact, watch for Northug's name as he goes through. He's behind Andrew Musgrave, his good friend Andy Musgrave, ahead of Sundby at the first split time. That tells you something about the conditions. 81 just finishing is Alex Harvey. So we now only have 12 skiers left out on the tracks. Harvey's position, Mike, remember he was last year's prologue winner. Is he in the top 10?
He is, he's 9th, 7.6 behind. He won't get his precious 15, 10 or 5-second bonus.
Now, do you think Sundby's just going to take this steady? As we mentioned, the winner of the prologue has only once won the overall tour. That was way back when Lucas Bauer won it. Harvey, Northug, Hellner, Teichmann have all won the prologue, but not gone on to win the overall tour. This man has 3 times. Dario Colonia has taken the top prize at the summit of the Alpe Chemise. 15 seconds to play with at the moment. This looks very, very good. Looks as though Dario Colonia has paced this one to perfection. Oh, sensational. 2.8 outside last time up this climb. He switched that around by 10 seconds. And Switzerland's number 1, the world number 1, leads by 7.9 seconds.
What a star this man is. His sprinting wasn't good before Christmas. He's gone away over Christmas. He's walked back home on his sprinting speed, and in tough conditions, he's really ripping the field apart.
Well, it's all downhill from here, so Colonia will not throw away that lead unless he takes a tumble. But coming from Valmuster, he spent as much of his early time, more of his early time on alpine skis than he did on cross country. So there's no doubt that he will be quick into the finish. Here he goes, looking for a time, sub 10 minutes. I think we're going to be looking at something closer to 9 minutes, 52, 53. It's going to be good. The margin is still fairly significant from 7.9, loses a little time on the descent, but he goes well under the 10-minute barrier. And we have a new leader with only, what do we got out there? We've got 8 men still out on the tracks.
What an amazing athlete. He barely looks out of breath. Wouldn't you love to have him in your team? He's just such a talent, natural talent, great mindset.
Well, he's certainly in your all-time relay team. I think if you take all their skiers at the best, I think you'd still put Petter Northug on that final ankle leg.
I think you would, and well, Northug still has a fight in this race. He was 7 seconds down at the first checkpoint, but he could pull that back. Not all the way. I don't think Northug could win this one. I don't think anybody could beat Cologna's time there.
Well, Northug has gone through the second split time and he's 5.8 outside. He does, of course, have that advantage of chasing. And this man, Sundby, who was the last to start, struggling a little. Here comes Northug. Has he managed to pull some time back? Not on Colonia, I don't think, but he could well be going into second position. It's a great effort from Petter Northug, looking to win the prologue for the 4th time. But the margin of 6-7 seconds, too big to claw back in the closing stages. He's only got 420 metres to do that. Surota looking beautifully smooth on the final stages. Still a little bit of bend in that right knee.
He's backed off at the end there. He knows it wasn't a good time. He almost had his ski poles off with 10 metres to go.
Well, Northug always gives 100%, more stage wins than anyone else in the Tour de Ski, but as you'll all know, he has never gone on to win the whole Tour. Here comes that double poling action that many would like to emulate. Not quite as good as it was in his prime, but will we ever see it again? The margin is important. A top 3 would give him bonuses, and he's going into second place. Well done to Petter Northug. 5.5. Add another 5 seconds, so he's going to be at least 10 seconds behind Dario Colonia at the start of day 2. And it's going to be interesting to see whether Colonia is prepared to go alone, and also on the women's side, whether Marit Bjørgen will use her 15-second advantage to go alone. zone.
I think she has to. I think she has to try and capitalise on that advantage, especially in the women's field. You just get the feeling that there's going to be a group of people in this men's 15 tomorrow.
And if, as I suspect, that Colonia doesn't go all the way on his own in the Classic, do you think that belittles this prologue? Says there is no point in chasing those extra 10-15 seconds, which takes a lot more out of the body. You might as well take this easy and save something for the second day of the pursuit.
It's an interesting way to look at it, but if Colonia can capitalise on his hard work today with that 5-second lead, you never know, and he's going to stretch all those chasing behind him.
Halverson started 91 of 93, and he goes into second place. Good finish from Halverson. My goodness, he's turned that around. He was half a second down on Petter Northug coming into the last 400 metres. So that's the advantage of starting late.
I hate to say it for Sumbi.
He's on the wrong course.
He's on the wrong track.
He's on the wrong course.
It's cost him so much time because it's a longer way round up the hill the second time.
But is he allowed to take that part of the course? Is he gonna be disqualified?
Technically, you're not allowed 2 metres off your race track.
Well, was he more than 2 metres off the race track? I'm not sure he was. He also had someone to avoid. He had to overtake.
How could you get it wrong? You know that you look at a track the day before, you know you have to go right the first time, left the second time, but that is the focus that he's on. He's just lost his thinking.
Well, I don't think that's on his mind at the moment, but I can tell you that Sumbi is down in 8th position. He's 11 seconds behind, and he's not going to make too much of an impression on the top 5, and we'll wait to see what the jury say about that course.
I think any reasonable jury would say, well, actually, he's raced a longer line. He's the last man on the track. Well, second last man on the track. It doesn't affect the timings, what he did, but he's cost himself, I think, 6 seconds in the process.
Yeah, he's dropped 2 places in the last 500 metres, so Sumbi making a bad mistake on that occasion.
Who's going to tell him he went the wrong way?
Well,
he's been told now.
If we saw it, plenty of people saw it, so they will know. And I suspect that we're not going to hear the outcome of that until tomorrow, so we'll do our best to let you know what the outcome is. But let's hope that Sumbi stays in it without any penalties. He's already down in 10th place and over 25 seconds off the leaders. So, not the best of starts for the defending champion. Let's have a look at the programme for today. It's got a really busy week of winter sport to look forward to. Ski jumping with David Goldstrom coming up from Innsbruck. Of course, we're into the Four Hills competition now, the highlight of the ski jumping season for many. Luge, Nordic combined on the programme. Also, Colin Bryce ready with the luge. Simon Golding on the Nordic combined today. So Dario Colonia, the #1 in the men's prologue here in Oberstdorf. We'll be back tomorrow with the 10 and the 15 kilometre pursuits. See you then.